So we all know that it is just 40 days for UPSC Mains 2025. Coming to anthropology, you notice that the paper has become little dicey in the last 2 years. But sometimes we always look for something which is most probable and what is the most important thing where you should emphasize. Every year I try to come up with certain important things, and this year also we have come up with 100 most important topics for Mains 2025 anthropology. Anytime any question is asked in relationship, you have to talk about the scope, what is the methodology, and the respective research works that they have done. For this year, you have seen that Kiladi excavation from Tamil Nadu has been in news for multiple reasons, and it has become a political issue as well. It becomes important topic in archaeology. From 1.1, it is generalistic question that you'll be noticing, meaning scope and development. So if you know how different anthropological branches are working and its contemporary development, automatically you will be able to write the 1.1. So here, the most possible questions is critical examination of cultural relativism, and then you have culture and civilization, and you notice the ethnocentrism. Hello everyone, welcome to ASPT's IS, myself Shiva Teja, faculty for anthropology. So we all know that it is just 40 days for UPSC Mains 2025, and I hope your preparation is on full swing. Coming to anthropology, you notice that the paper has become little dicey the last 2 years. So in order to better deal with it, and there is a need for good coverage of topics, yet despite all these things, you have to study every part of the syllabus, and it is important to have good amount of practice. But sometimes we always look for something which is most probable and what is the most important thing where you should emphasize, because we have limited time, so the time has to be allocated according to the priority order. So here, every year I try to come up with certain important things, and this year also we have come up with 100 most important topics for Mains 2025 anthropology. And we have seen very good strike rate in the past, and hoping the same for this year. Based on the current affairs and the research papers that are published, I've come up with this, and I hope along with all the things that you're reading, your emphasis should go more towards these topics, especially those who are preparing for 2025. So let's see, this is the part 1 of 100 most important topics. We are going to do it module wise. Today we are going to take up socio-cultural anthropology. So in socio-cultural anthropology, first you have unit 1.1. One point two, 1.3. Okay, first is meaning, scope, and development. There it is very standard practice, whatever you have read, that's fine. But coming to 1.2, relationship with other disciplines. See, most important one is anthropology and sociology. The relationship between anthropology, so socio-cultural anthropology and sociology. So they tend to ask what is the relationship between them. So here, anytime any question is asked in relationship, you have to talk about the scope. What is the scope? What is the methodology? Okay. So and the respective research works that they have done. So how their research works, and then you try to write about the interrelationship. So here in the research you will be talking about similarities and differences, and at the end you will talk about the interrelationship. Okay, so this is what you write when you compare any two topics. But for this year, you have seen that Kiladi excavations from Tamil Nadu has been in news for multiple reasons, and it has become a political issue as well. So given that, it becomes important topic in archaeology. Along with that, it is important to know the relationship between history and anthropology, how history and anthropology are related, and they can also ask you how ethnohistory bridges the gap between these two branches. So that is one important topic that you have to have an idea. Okay, so this is one of the important topic from 1.2. So coming to 1.3, okay, so in 1.3, this is one possible question, right? So every time they'll be asking holism, integration. So they can give you a statement. Anthropology is the humanistic of all the sciences and scientific of all the humanities. Explain this statement by highlighting the holistic and integrated approach of this discipline. So try to prepare for this question from this unit, and it becomes important for this year because even Anthropological Congress 2025 tries to play on this part. Okay, then we have major branches of anthropology. The question can be discuss the different branches of anthropology, and they can also ask you how the socio-cultural anthropology and biological anthropology synergize to work with each other. So this can be other possible question from 1.3. So you have seen that from 1.1 it is generalistic question that you'll be noticing meaning, scope and development. So if you know how different anthropological branches are working and its contemporary developments, automatically you will be able to write the 1.1. And then coming to 1.2, I told you one important thing is socio-cultural anthropology and its relation to sociology, and the other thing is history and anthropology, how they are related and how ethnohistory bridges the gap between the history and anthropology. Because I told you the reason for this is current developments of Kiladi excavations that you find in Tamil Nadu. So they are questioning for the role of Tamil Nadu in the history of India, where they believe that the excavations show the presence of South India even before the Harappan times and their linkage to the Harappan times. So they consider themselves to be the front runners of Indian civilization, and henceforth they are debating for it. But however, our concern should be with respect to anthropology. So this is 1.2, and coming to 1.3, discuss the major branches of anthropology and how socio-cultural anthropology and biological anthropology synergize with each other. So this is with respect to unit 1.1, 2, and 3. So now you have 2.1, that is culture and its features. So here the most possible questions is critical examination of cultural relativism. Okay, this is one important possible question. And then you have culture and civilization, and you notice the ethnocentrism. Generally, ethnocentrism is linked to critical examination of cultural relativism. Okay, so they try to link ethnocentrism and cultural relativism in general, but what I feel is that they may take a next step to ask you how the ethnocentric bias faced by the anthropologists within the fieldwork can be overcome. So even anthropologists face that ethnocentric bias when they go for the fieldwork. So now how will they overcome this? So what are the ethical dilemmas they come across, and what are the process to overcome it? So this is one thing that you have to keep in mind, not just with respect to individuals and societies, but mainly with respect to anthropologists, you have to keep in mind regarding the ethnocentrism. So these are the questions from 2.1 which could be probable. And coming to 2.2, society. In society, you have status and role is one topic, okay, and other is social stratification. However, last year you notice that social stratification question has come, so most emphasis can be on status and role. Okay, so this year try to emphasize on status and role. What are the different perspectives on status and role? And coming to 2.3, marriage. So in this, what are the most probable things? So every year you notice that either they ask some form of rules and regulations related to marriage. So when you read different types of rules and regulations, be it endogamy, exogamy, or levirate, sororate, and you also notice uncle-niece marriages, cross-cousin marriages, parallel cousin marriages. What are the reasons behind this? What are the different scholarly views behind this? And how others counter these views? These are important if you have to score in these answers. Not just mentioning the rules, but the reason behind the rules and how others have countered it with the specific examples of Indian tribes or Indian anthropology has to be quoted if you have to get good score in this topic. And in marriage, other possible question is that forms of marriage, then we have forms of marriage. So you have to emphasize the socio-economic context of marriage. So they can ask you what are the different types of marriages found in central India or North India or Northeast India. So try to have some examples with respect to tribes of India with respect to each type in different geographical locations. So this is 2.3. And now coming to 2.4, family. So in this unit, most probable ones are family, household, and domestic group. This is one probable one. And you can notice along with this, the important one is universality of family and marriage, universality of family and marriage, and impact of feminization or feminist movements, impact of feminist movements on the structure and function of family. Okay, so in 2.4, try to focus on these two things, whether universal definition and universality of family and marriage exists, and what is the impact of the feminist movements on the family and marriage. Okay, and the other is family, household, and domestic group. Then coming to 2.5, kinship. Here, the first and foremost is principles of descent. Differentiate between different types of descent. Differentiate between different types of descent. Like you have unilineal descent, you have bilineal descent, or you have bilateral descent. So, what are the differences between them? Use some ethnographic examples to explain. Using ethnographic examples, right? And next is what are the determinants? What are the determinants of kinship terminology? What are the determinants? And at the same time, how Morgan linked kinship terminology to social organization. So these are the two important things that you have to keep in mind. One is with respect to kinship terminology, what are its determinants, and then how Morgan linked it to social organization. So this is for 2.5, and in unit 3, economic organization. So here, first, everybody will be doing this formalist and substantivist debate. Then impact of globalization on indigenous tribes or indigenous economic systems. Secularing has already been asked, so I hope you people are aware about it with respect to anthropological perspectives. But what is more probable now is the Karl Polanyi's concept of reciprocity, redistribution, and exchange. Okay, so the concept of reciprocity, redistribution, and exchange given by Karl Polanyi, they might ask you for critical examination. Critically examine the Karl Polanyi's concept. Okay, and one more thing in this unit is comparison between band versus tribe. How these two indigenous systems, economic systems, and political systems are different. How they differ. So they will give band versus tribe and how they differ in terms of economic organization, political organization, and religious organization. So basically, you have to understand how the bands differ from the tribes in terms of all these aspects. Okay, so this is with respect to third unit, and then you have unit 4, political organization. Here the possible question is comparison of again different political systems, where I talked about the band and tribe in unit 3, but here they can ask you state and stateless. They can pick chiefdom versus state, or they can pick band versus state, okay, or band versus tribe. Any combination can happen. So know the basics of it, but most importantly in unit 4, define law and how is it different from custom. Discuss different forms of law in stateless societies or simple society, or they can ask you discuss different forms, or they can ask you how law operates in simple societies. One more possible question is social control in simple societies. Since last year authority has been asked, okay, power, authority, and legitimacy is one of the important areas. So last year authority has been asked, so that part, keeping it aside, just go through power and legitimacy also in a brief. But most important, high priority for this year comes with respect to law and social control in simple societies. And next, move into the fifth unit, religion, you have approaches to religion and its critical examination. You have magic, religion, and science, and the practitioners of magic, religion, and science. Practitioners of magic, religion, and science. So they'll ask you to differentiate between magic, religion, and science, or they can ask you with respect to its practitioners. Okay, you have sorcerers, witches, and you have priests, you have medicine man, shaman. So they can ask you on those things. And one thing is myth versus ritual. So these are the important topics from Unit 5. Okay, so here approaches to religion, important approach of Emile Durkheim with respect to his concept of totemism, sacred and profane. Okay, so you have to go through these different approaches, but most important, Emile Durkheim. And before, once they have asked regarding the Clifford Geertz approach to religion, that is symbolic approach. So you have to know all the approaches to religion and what they have talked about. So coming to the sixth unit. So here, neo-evolutionism and cultural materialism. So which are influenced from other. Okay. Then you can focus on core tenets of culture personality school. Okay. What are the core tenets of cultural personality school or the basis of culture personality school and how they have played an important role in national character studies. Okay, so again, national character studies try to see the contemporary perspective. Okay, so how is it relevant politically and methodologically in contemporary aspect? So that becomes an important area. And then you have symbolic interpretative theories of Turner and Geertz. Okay, then cognitive theories, especially schema theory. So here cognitive theory, they can mostly link it to the language chapter. So there also it becomes very important to analyze it, how the language influences culture and culture influences language. But they might also ask you what are the methodologies of cognitive theory, or they can ask you the schema theory. So then you should have a bit awareness about it because they might ask you for 10 marker mostly. Cognitive theory is generally not asked for 20 markers so far in the past. Even now, I expect it to be 10 marker, but UPSC is always unpredictable. So have a 4 pages of content on this. Then unit 7, language, culture and communication. one thing what they can ask is verbal, non-verbal communication, social context of language use, they can also ask the relationship between culture and language. So here the culture and language concept is bit broad, which covers Sapir-Whorf's hypothesis. Also cultural determinism, linguistic relativity, okay, and the universal grammar concept of Noam Chomsky. So these things all are covered under culture and language. So when you write an answer, you have to interlink your cognitive theory here and at the same time write about the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis. They may ask the individual topic within it, Sapir-Whorf hypothesis. So language, culture and communication from this chapter, this can be your expectations. Okay, so these are the most important things. It is not like you avoid other topics, but for some people at this point of time, they want to figure out where they have to prioritize their time. So these are the areas where you should prioritize, where 80 to 90% of the things can reflect. Okay. So once you cover this, you can read the other topics. First, you should ensure that these topics are not missed. In Unit 8, research methods. See, they have asked about fieldwork and contemporary challenges on fieldwork last year. So this year they might ask you different tools of data collection. Okay, so sampling methods also they have asked. So this year they can ask you one of the tools of data collection. Then other is qualitative versus quantitative methods. So I hope you know the qualitative methods, right? So you have PRA, PLA, PAR, RRA. Okay, so these things you must be aware. And one most important thing is I already told you in unit 2.1 ethnocentrism bias in the field work. So how will they overcome? So they might ask you one thing, that how the traditional method of fieldwork is very important in the days of digital ethnography. So today you have digital ethnography trying to play an important role. So in the times of digital ethnography, how the traditional ethnography plays an important role. You cannot replace the traditional ethnography altogether. So they'll ask you what are the advantages or flaws of digital ethnography and how it cannot be a replacement to traditional ethnography. Okay, so this thing that can be asked, and ethical dilemmas, I already told you how it can be overcome by the anthropologists in the fieldwork. So these are the possible questions from Unit 8, and the final one is emic versus ethic. Okay, so this is also very important, emic versus ethic for this year. So these are the possible most important topics from socio-cultural anthropology after referring to multiple years of PYQs, after referring to the probable papers that are published and visiting multiple semester papers of universities. So I have figured out the most relevant topics for our syllabus and I'm trying to make a list of them. And now I've done with sociocultural. I'll also come up with the physical, anthropology, archaeological, and other modules also. But here, what you have to do is see whatever may be your level of preparation. wherever you may stand now currently. So you may be standing at the beginner stage, or you may already have prepared everything. Your short notes is ready, you have revised. Irrespective of anything, what you can do is, first, every day you can take some 6 to 7 topics. If you have already done, just revise these 6 to 7 topics. Or if you are beginner also, spend some 3 to 4 hours for every topic, some 10-15 minutes. Just quickly read it, make a short note of it. So try to make a skeleton for it and try to revise it multiple times. So daily 7, within 1 week you will be able to cover, or daily 10 if you are a beginner kind of person. If you are studying GS till now and you are starting your anthropology now, you did not practice so far, then what you can do, you can pick 10 to 12 topics. You finish 10 to 12 topics in each day. So almost in 4 days or 5 days, you'll finish around 50 topics. So in that way also, you are covering the major parts of the syllabus. Okay, so in this manner, you can either revise if you have already done, or if you are a beginner also, still need not worry, don't panic. This can help you cover most of the things. And if you are facing any difficulty in the process, and if you need any help further, you can reach out to me. So what you can do is, you can do 6 to 7 topics on daily basis, and then you can switch to the other topics once you have done this. So suppose you are starting with unit 2, you are reading unit 2. So first ensure these topics are covered, then whatever the time that is left, you cover the remaining. But don't spend time mostly on those things which are not going to reflect in the exam, or which have already come in the exam in the very immediate year. Okay, so now what people do is they study, right, what do you call, anthropological significance of hemoglobinopathies. So which was asked last year already. Why will they ask the question again? So try to focus on what's probable and be little rational here. So you have to be smart in studying anthropology as well, not just general studies. Okay. So see you all in the next class with another module. And this is my effort for you people. And I'll try to come up with other topics also. And I'm making some charts and mnemonics and memory based techniques to remember some of the important disease based traits, or be it anthropological sites. So if that can help you in your process, I would be glad. And if you need any help also, you can reach out to me. Thank you.